Hello and welcome everyone. Today I'm joined by Kassa. Kassa is founder of Legacy Tigray, and she has been one of the strong advocates for Tigray for the past 2-3 years. And today she has joined me to discuss about the International Commission of Human Rights Experts on Ethiopia. There have been talks that the mandate of the commission might be terminated, and Eden has been pushing for the mandate to be extended. So we're going to talk about that, and thank you for joining me, Eden.
Thank you, Teklai, for having me.
It's my pleasure. So where are we with the ICHRE now? Tell us the status.
Well, the hearing will begin on September 13th. So we have 10 days before the ICHREE mandate comes into a discussion with the UN state members. So so far we have been sending emails, petitioning, and also making sure that we were collaborating with non-Tegaru organizations like Amnesty Report has been pushing, Human Rights Watch has been pushing for the mandate extension, PHR has been pushing for the extension of the mandate, because we are seeing that Tigray genocide has not stopped, and also the violations are taking place in Tigray. So this extension is important for Tigray. Tigray deserves justice. It's been 3 years. We're still seeing the violations are taking place. We're still seeing humanitarian law being violated, refugee laws being violated, and also our people are suffering. Our people deserve justice. So again, we are here to make sure that everyone is aware of what is happening in Tigray, and also the state members are aware of it. The Ethiopian government has made sure and has been pushing for the termination of the mandate, saying that it will take over the justice and accountability, will hold perpetrators accountable for all the violations that are taking place within Ethiopia. However, we've not seen that, especially with the ICHREE agreement. So the Pretoria agreement has not been upheld. Implementation that needs to be done within that has not been done. We're still seeing violations, right? So rape is ongoing, murder is ongoing, and also siege still is within Tigray. We've seen human rights with the international humanitarian aid has been suspended because of everything that we're seeing. So again, it is important. So we are coming together. Everyone is aware of what's happening. The Human Rights Council, the 54th session, will start on September 13th. We have 10 days to make sure that we send an email that has been prepared by Legacy Tigray and also approved by all other Tegaru organizations to send this email to UN state members. So far, as of this morning, we had sent 940 emails. And then for the US petition that we have only for US residents to send this petition to their US Congress members, so that way the US Congress can push the State Department and Secretary Blinken to actually submit a resolution to extend the mandate. 500 petitions have been signed, a little bit over 500 actually. So that is still not enough, because I know there are at least over 2,000 Tegarus worldwide, at least diaspora. So, but we want to make sure that it is very clear why you are sending this ICHREE mandate. The ICHREE mandate, for those of you who may not know, it is supposed to be UN-funded independent investigation team, right? So this independent investigation team has not been able to get into Tigray or to any other parts of Ethiopia for that matter, because the Ethiopian government has not allowed this investigation team access. So any reporting that we have been seeing from Amnesty Watch, Human Rights Watch, or any of this investigating team that may have done any reporting, it is via conversations such as you and I are having right now, or phone calls or emails. So it has not been on site, meaning that everything else is being ignored. So Tigray genocide, we've already heard it. It has been the most horrific genocide that has been ongoing in the 21st century. And we already know that it has been the bloodiest conflict. We already have seen the worst thing that could happen to humanity. So without an independent investigation team, we can't say there is really, no one will believe us in all honesty, right? Because again, the Ethiopian government is one of the parties that is the perpetrator for Tigray genocide. So you can't expect the Ethiopian government to do its job, which is basically incriminating itself to say that we have done this. So with that being said, I really urge everyone, all Tegaru and friends and families of Tigrayans, to make sure that you are pushing for this ICHREE mandate, is what I'm asking in a short and in a long way, Teklai. So yeah.
All right. Yeah, I think we're going to come back to some of the points you raised. But in terms of the your demand, Ed, and you're saying that one of the things that you are demanding is that the mandate be extended, and when they have the summit in September 13. Um, do you have other demands as well? So, for instance, one point you raised is that the Ethiopian regime hasn't allowed the investigative team to get access to Tigray.
Yes.
Is that one of the things that you are demanding, or you are only now demanding for the mandate to be extended, but otherwise in the way that it has been before, without them getting any access?
Oh, no. We are definitely making sure that, and we're asking that investigative team is allowed full access to all the regions and the parts that they want to investigate. Again, there is more work that needs to be done, because what we've seen in Tigray is not just a human loss. It's property, it's culture, it's history. It's massive. So it cannot be done in the way that they have been doing it for the past year. And also we're asking for independent journalist team to actually have access to Tigray as well. We've been able to get one or two in the past 3 years, but as we already have seen it, whenever they come back from Tigray, it is horrific. What they're showing us is really deadly, it's really bad, and it's really heartbreaking. So we have not had a chance for journalists or independent media to have access to all Tigray as well. So we need full unhindered access to Tigray, and that is what the mandate should allow, and that the UN state members should be pushing and demanding or pressuring the Ethiopian government. It cannot give us any more excuses of denying access or expecting that genocide can be investigated over the phone or over email or over anything else that has been done so far with the investigative team.
All right. So you mentioned Tigray genocide, and that is that when the UN body was given its mandate, its focus or its domain was the Tigray war. But as you mentioned, there are now wars in Amhara and in Oromia, and there has been a lot of atrocities. I think some of them have been reported by the UN maybe 2 weeks ago. I think when they say that 183 people were killed in Amhara, and as many people at least in Oromia as well. So will one of your demands be that the mandate is sort of expanded so that the investigative body could investigate what is happening in Amhara and Oromia and elsewhere as well? Because I think as it stands in terms of its mandate, I don't think it would be able to go to those areas. So what are you saying in terms of that?
Well, that's a really good question. And it's really important that it's not only what we're asking, of course, the mandate that was put in was for Tigray, but what we're asking is that what's happening right now in Tigray is also it has been a wildfire and has went into other regions. And we're seeing that. And UN state members in other countries are noticing that there are all these other violations or wars are taking place in Amhara region, Oromia, and other states as well. So that is the importance of this, right? Basically, the Ethiopian government is not protecting its own citizens, despite of wherever they may be living. So what is happening right now requires an investigative team, an independent and impartial investigative team. And so that what we're asking is for the ICHREE mandate also to be extended for Tigray, of course, because of the deadline is coming, but we want it to be expanded to all Ethiopia. If all Ethiopians, if Ethiopia is really ready, the citizens I'm speaking of course, are ready to make sure that their pleas and their sufferings needs to be heard, and they are seeking for justice and accountability to what has happened in their regions, is that they need to make sure that the ICHREE needs to be extended, not only in Tigray, but also needs to be pushed for their regions as well, which is expanding it. So we are demanding in that aspect as well. We are showing that UN state members, they are noticing it, that there are violations taking place or killings that are taking place in Amhara region, Oromia. Of course, it's been ongoing as well. So if they do care, if they really want to get justice and accountability for other regions as well, that these other regions needs to come together and demand for that expansion. And it's not just only that. It's honestly, yes, I know we always say Amhara and Oromia because we see it on the news. There are other things that are taking place in Somalia, Benishangul Gumuz, the Afar regions. These are everything that has happened in all honesty, we are trying to make sure that there is some sort of peace and justice and accountability and some sort of stability within Ethiopia, and for all the regions, quote unquote, to get along, we need to make sure that there is this independent team that needs to investigate it, because there is no trust. There's no trust in the Ethiopian government to do this, to hold anyone actually accountable right now. And we're seeing it truly because the Ethiopian government is pushing for the termination of the ICHREE. So I'm asking all Ethiopians and non-Tegaru Ethiopian organizations as well to push for the ICHREE extension, but also expanding it to the rest of the regions within Ethiopia to make sure that everything that is taking place right now, human rights violations that are taking place, are occurring, needs to be investigated fully, and that is full access to the regions.
Have there been any concrete attempt, Eden, to work with non-Tegaru Ethiopians, for instance, with the Amharas and the Oromos, because they too, I think, have been demanding for some sort of independent investigation, although there is an element of, I think for the most part, at the very least, an element of hypocrisy, because a lot of people who were saying that the UN investigating crimes in Tigray was an act of Western intervention, but now they have turned 180 and they are saying that there should be investigation. But I think if people came around to the right conclusion, it's fine. You know, what they said yesterday shouldn't be held against them. And so in that spirit, is there any attempt, concrete attempt with NGOs or activist groups from Amhara, from Oromia, or is it just a general call you're making?
We are trying. And we will be reaching out as well. Additionally, more. So we all have, in all honesty, we have been working with one another, despite sometimes it could be just on interviews where we're butting heads. But again, we're all, they want justice for their people, and they want justice for the regions, for the areas that is happening within their regions or the violations that are happening. So we will be reaching out. And the only thing I would say is just hear us out and really understand the intention behind this is not about just Tigray, because what's happening to my family, what's happening to your family, yes, we deserve justice, but also what may be happening and is happening to others within Ethiopia, the citizens I'm speaking of, we do need to get justice for them as well. So if they do care and they want to make sure that there is an ending for this suffering that we're seeing, they do need to work with us in this thing. And we're hoping within these 10 days, we will be seeing a surge of collaboration within all the Ethiopian organizations.
So the Ethiopian regime has been, from what you know, and I know, the Ethiopian regime has been trying to lobby countries to vote for the termination of the mandate in September 13. And one of the arguments that the Ethiopian government has been pushing is that there is a domestic justice process in Ethiopia, and that the investigation by the UN is redundant. It's not necessary at worst, and at best, it's going to be some sort of what would the word be? It gets in the way of what Ethiopia is trying to do domestically. What do you say to that? If, for instance, hypothetically, you know, representatives of the countries that have been lobbying were listening to this conversation, what would you say to that?
Well, again, their intention, these especially wasn't from Ethiopia's standpoint. We know what the intention is, despite of it's been repeated many times. But from the other countries, the West that we're seeing, for example, was France and Germany wanting to just go ahead, or even almost the US right now, just to continue business as usual. That is not really a way, it sends the wrong message to anything that could happen. And also, again, what we're seeing, and for the past 3 years almost, we have been saying what's happening in Tigray will continue to happen in other regions of Ethiopia. Were we wrong? No. Did we want that to happen? No. But again, nobody wanted to listen because they wanted to make sure that, yes, Ethiopia will put a facade. Ethiopia will make sure there is smokes and mirrors to get away with anything. So that smoke and mirror actually worked on these countries. So again, by saying that business as usual is not helping citizens. And also, we are seeing fundings that is going into the Ethiopian government because they want to address it to the situations that's happening to the citizens. However, we're not seeing that money or that funding going to the citizens. So again, these countries that are funding or trying to go business as usual, to continue that. Their partnership, their economic partnership is ongoing. That makes it really difficult to really truly know what's happening. But again, there's no monitoring, right? Like they're not doing the monitoring that actually gets you an information of the funding that the Ethiopian government continues to receive. So with that being said, of course, there's a political aspect of it and the economic aspect of it, but what the message they're sending, the message these countries are sending is not really fair altogether, but also is really wrong, because we're seeing the very same countries are asking for justice and accountability and demand for Ukraine, right? Because what's happening in Ukraine, or what's happening, quote unquote, in other regions that they are with other countries or conflicts that they're seeing. So what makes Ukraine any different from Tigray? Yes, of course, we can go in a lengthy conversation on that, but really human rights violations, they apply to everybody. It includes Tigray. Human rights violations applies to all the other regions within Ethiopia as well. So if they are trying to continue and they really truly want to see a peace, stable Ethiopia, to continue their business, their economic relationship, then they need to make sure that no such violations really continue to take place, because it's not a good look altogether. It really is not a good look for these countries to advocate for genocide, for that matter, because that is what the message they're sending. So what we're asking is, we're trying to make sure citizens within those countries are pushing for this ICHREE extension, and that they see that when you are excluding, or when you put aside human rights violations taking place and you pretend you don't see them, it really is not what the world or the West or even the Human Rights Council should be standing for, right? So that's basically it, I guess. But again, what they're sending is the wrong message, and that message should not be acceptable or accepted by the citizens within those regions or countries that these countries are pushing or wanting to get away with business as usual, I guess.
Well, it's good that you said it has a political element, Eden, and I think one of the political element is for them to say that the Pretoria Agreement has more or less held, so there is a delicate balance to be maintained, and so we're going to prioritize the status quo because it's working just fine, at least as far as they are concerned. So we're not going to disrupt that balance by pushing for justice and accountability. So someone like Mike Ham might say that. Something like that. You see, if he was listening to what you're saying now, he might say, I totally understand what you are saying in terms of justice and accountability, but this is something that we have deliberately postponed to another time until the peace that is sort of holding is cemented. What would your counter argument to that be?
Well, really, the extension and expansion of the ICHREE mandate will allow the U.S. or anyone else that actually wants to continue a relationship with Ethiopia continue. Like, so if you do get the mandate to be extended, if you do get the independent investigation to actually take place, and if you get a chance to investigate the human rights violations that are taking place, it really does lead, it's really is as simple as 1 + 1 = 2. You get a peace and a stable country to continue your relationship with. So what Mike Hammer might be seeing, and also is trying to say, let's not muddy the waters, because the COHA agreement may be holding. The COHA agreement has not been held. We know that for a fact. And also the COHA agreement is only for, quote unquote, the northern Ethiopia aspect of it, but it's only with Tigray. And again, the northern parts were not invited to the COHA agreement. So how many agreements are you going to see and hope to God that you're going to duct tape a country? Really, it's duct taping Ethiopia and hoping it holds together, because you are intentionally ignoring what's happening. So what the U.S. stand for, the human rights, U.S. has signed this and is part of the Human Rights Council, EU state members. So the reason for that is really when you have any violations that violates international human rights, humanitarians or refugee laws, you are, by law, you're supposed to uphold that, right? You have a responsibility to protect, and they're failing at that aspect. So if if my camera truly intentionally wants a genuine peace to take place or to happen in Ethiopia, then there are the hard questions and hard parts that they need to do, but it really is not as hard, because all you're doing is doing the right thing by saying that justice and accountability must be served, so there would be a long-lasting resolution and peace within the country that we are trying to keep, right? So Ethiopia is the hub of Horn of Africa. We are very much aware of that. No one wants to see a dismantled and broken Ethiopia. We know that, but again, you can only hold a country that is trying to break itself repeatedly because the government does not care about its own citizens. When you have a government, the very own government is supposed to uphold and protect its own citizens, is not doing the job, you know where the problem stands. So again, by wanting to keep Abiy Ahmed Ali in power, by wanting to keep Ethiopia as whatever, it's not... there is really, we will never see a peace within the Horn of Africa. We will never see it. It really is a never, just a never-ending sight of suffering. We're going to see, and of course, right now we're seeing in Sudan, and it's going to continue to happen. Eritrea continues to violate every human right violations that can take place on planet Earth, and yet still remains within even the Human Rights Council, and also it remains within Tigray as it's supposed to have left before the ICHREE agreement or during the ICHREE agreement. So I honestly sometimes feel like we're speaking really on common sense, you know, on something as simple as if something is wrong, fix it. If something is broken, see if you can fix it. But if it's still leaking for too long, there's really nothing you can do about it, truly. But I know I don't want to lose hope, but I also care about what's happening to our people. And it's enough. Enough is enough. So that's why we're saying that. I hope my camera understands why we can't just accept a possibility of peace. That's not okay.
So, Eden, on Twitter and other venues, you have been calling on people to push for the extension of the mandate, among other things. What are the specific things that you are asking people to do? I know that you briefly mentioned them in your introduction, but I want you to make them very sort of explicit so that people know exactly what it is that you are asking them to do.
Sure, yeah. So the ICHREE mandate, we already have the link ready for you at callitagenocide.com. Once you go there, when you scroll down, you will see the ICHREE image, the poster. Once you click on that, the email is already ready for you. It will be embedded in your email body draft, and already the UN state members are added into the email draft. So all you have to do is read that. You can continue to add any information you want to. Personally, you feel like you would like to share, then just send. That is worldwide, meaning that everyone from anywhere can send it, from people in Tigray to anyone that's in Australia. They can send that. And also we have the US petition. So when you go to the same website, callitagenocide.com, and you scroll past the ICHREE image, you will see a petition, open letter petition to the US Congress. And this is only for US residents. The reason for that is you already have seen it recently, about 2 months ago, after almost March 3rd, Secretary Blinken said that there is still human rights violations taking place within Tigray region. Just a couple weeks later, that the US decided to say that there is no violations taking place, or Ethiopia is not violating human rights anymore. That was the Biden administration. So again, the reason for that was a lot of the political and also economic reasons for that. But we want to make sure that the US Congress is pushing the State Department and Secretary Blinken to put in a resolution for the mandate extension. So that is why it's really important that the US residents, anyone that lives in the US, is sending this petition. So there are two. There's the email that will be going to the UN state members, and then there is a petition that is from the US to the US Congress. And also we do have a protest taking place between September 13, which is the beginning, and September 21st, almost the hearing date of the Ethiopia. We have protests that will be taking place in different cities that have scheduled and have approved. So what we're asking is you go out on this protest, you show yourself, you tell them that you are listening, you are watching their every move, and you're demanding that ICHREE extension takes place and also expands. So this means that we're inviting anyone and everyone that needs to be, that is within your city. So that includes even the non-Tagaru Ethiopian organizations. If they want to come and they want to protest for that demand and extension and expanding, we welcome you, because we are all in this together. This is it.
Oh, brilliant, brilliant. So I think some of the material and resources you mentioned, I'm going to put them in the description box, so that people could access them there and do the thing that you just said, Eden. So that was that from my side. But if you have something that you want to say that I have forgotten to ask you, please feel free, and we're going to finish that with that.
Okay, thank you. I think you have asked everything, Taklai, but just wanted to make sure I know sometimes I am only focusing on the ICHREE, but again, it's really a reminder, ICHREE extension, independent investigation is justice for Tigray. I think sometimes we seem to be a little bit distracted, like, oh, what about this and that? Technically, everything that has happened in Tigray requires independent investigation, requires actually checking and proving, right? So everything that has happened, if you want to see justice and peace and also accountability, and the perpetrators who have committed human rights violations within Tigray and also all Ethiopia, you need to make sure you are pushing your message. So we have 10 days. I'm hoping for at least 1,500 to 3,000 emails to go out by September 13. It might be a high reach, but I think there are 3,000 of us, and also there are 3,000 all Ethiopians, more than that actually. So it really is not a hard reach. So I just hope that you understand why this is important, because after, I've been saying it as well, if this independent investigation, if this ICHREE mandate is terminated, I don't know what would happen to us. I really don't. So thank you.
Thank you, Eden. So that was Eden Kassa from Legacy Tigray and human rights campaigner. Please do visit her website, and thank you very much. Bye-bye.